Hi guys! It's April and it's time for my end of month wrap up. I did a mid-month wrap up just a few weeks ago, so I won't talk about the books that I talked about there, but I'll link it up above and down below in case you're interested in what happened the first half of this month. But now I will get into the last half of this month, and with book 2-a-thon going on right now, this very minute, I won't talk about the books that I am finishing and currently reading for book 2-a-thon, but I am doing current updates with my Insta stories in case you're interested in what is going on throughout this week. With book 2-a-thon, things are crazy, trust me. It's gonna be an adventure and a half. But I will talk about the books that I completed these last 2 weeks minus these last couple of days. The first book I want to talk about is Child of the Prophecy by Juliet Marillier. This is part of my Read Sevenwaters read along. I finally finished this book, guys. It's been a long haul adventure. I put off reading it for a couple months and then I started reading it for over a month, and then I finally got into this book and I binged it in just a couple days. Go figure. This is the story of Fuyumi as she struggles to decide which side of her bloodline she needs to follow. She is stuck in the middle of this whole Sevenwaters battle. There are these set of islands between Ireland and Britain that both parties are really fighting over. Of course, there's a prophecy involved, and so a lot of bloodshed and a lot of war and all of those other things are pulling Fuyumi in all different directions. Plus, it doesn't help that her parents are who they are. I won't say here because it will spoil you for the first couple books in this series, but it's safe to say that this book brings those two books together in this epic blowout because of all of this prophecy and everything that has happened in the first two books. I love Juliet Marillier's writing, and she brings it here like she does all of her other books, but this is probably my least favorite in the series. I have a full review if you want to check that out. I will link it everywhere that it can be linked for my more in-depth thoughts about this book. There are just a few little quirks in the story and the character that it didn't grab me in the way a lot of the other books in this series do, but I'm looking forward to continuing on and finally getting to the books that I haven't read yet, because now I'm fairly interested to see what happens to Sevenwaters, cause yeah, that was a sound. Then there was volume 6 and 7 of Ghost Hunt. This is a manga series that centers around a ghost hunter research party that goes around to different places just solving ghost type mysteries. It's centered around a young girl named May who finds herself wrapped up in this group. I love this series to death, and volume 6 and 7 really start to get into some of the backstory that you get hinted at the first part, and you wonder why there's these weird inconsistencies in the story. You start to feel that build in these two volumes, and they're really gonna escalate in the next ones, and I'm excited to get to those, but of course that's gonna have to wait until book 2-a-thon is over. Then there was Competence by Gail Carriger. This is the newest release in the Custard Protocol series. This is set in a steampunk Victorian world with vampires and werewolves. It centers around a very interesting cast of characters as they adventure around different parts of the world, because why the heck not? This story is mostly about going to South America and saving a vampire clan out there that has lost communication with the outside world, but mainly this is a story of Prim and her romantic life. I don't mind romance, but that really wasn't why I picked up this book, so I found it a little off-putting that I didn't get more story to the romance. I don't mind the romance at all. Gail Carriger handles all kinds of different romance, sexuality, and all of those kind of different things fairly well. I enjoy her work, but I was also looking to have more of an adventure story, and that isn't what this is. This is a romance story, so if you like that kind of thing, you'll probably really enjoy this book. Then I read Voyage of the Basilisk by Brennan. This is the next book in the memoirs of Lady Trent, where Isabella is once again off to study dragons. This time she drags her son along into the adventures and the shenanigans that happen on this adventure. At one point, she may have to marry another woman. That's all I'm saying. It was an adventure and a half, and I do truly enjoy this series, the way it is written, the scientific aspects a lot of this takes, and just the mindset of Isabella I relate to, weirdly enough. I also did a buddy read with Shayla, and we read Sibyl's Secret by Juliet Marillier. So yes, 2 books about Juliet Marillier in one grouping. This is a story of Paula and her adventures with her father as she starts to get into the trade business because she's interested in possibly in the future starting her own book business. So for that aspect, I truly enjoyed that, just to see a woman get out in the world and become her own person. But along the way, they end up in Istanbul in the search for the specific object that one of of their customers has requested. Unfortunately, this object is centered around a religious faction and all kinds of not so good things happen. Once again, Juliet Marillier's writing is just on point. I love the way she creates world. Here though, there was a love triangle that I wasn't feeling as much as I wanted. I knew that it was just a plot device, and unfortunately that retracted a little bit for me. And then there was also the handling of one of the other female characters that I just felt really gross about, and I didn't want it to go the way that I saw it going, but it happened. And this is probably not my favorite Juliet Marillier's book, but it is still very well written. It seems to be a theme for a lot of my books these past couple weeks. I like the writing, the plot could use a little bit of help. And then last but not least, I read Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is a story of Jude and her sisters who at a very young age was pulled into the fairy world and the fairy court. Jude is trying to integrate herself in the fae world, which isn't a very nice place at all. These fae can be very cruel to humans. There's almost this jealousy aspect, but at the same time there's this very high superiority complex. And of course they use humans as slaves, as all kinds of forms of entertainment. So Jude trying to find her place in this world that is very painful to watch, so it was hard to read a lot of this book and it's gut-wrenching. You start to see that she almost has this complex where she relates to the people who stole her. She only understands this world, so she can't understand ever going back to human world, and in the process of trying to integrate herself in, she finds herself part of this spy network and things happen. I won't say anything more than that, but besides the fact that I am truly invested to see where this story goes, it leaves in a place where I can see several horrible things happening all at once, and I need to know at this point. And I also wanted to note before I put this book down that this also takes place in the same world that Darkest Part of the Forest takes place, even though they're not wholly related to each other. So those are the books that I have read in the last 2 weeks. I am now going to go on and try and do my booktubeathon challenges. We'll see how well those turn out. You'll probably actually see some of them before you see this, depending on how I upload things. I don't know. Tell me down below what your favorite book behind me is, if you can read any of those books. It's like an I Spy game. Can you find something on my shelf that you think is awesome? Just let me know down below, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.